Every choice builds character. On the Virtuosity podcast, we explore how to make every day a rep toward excellence. I'm Corey, your host and co-founder of Virtuosity. My journey into character development began in sport, where I discovered that strengthening my character didn't just improve my performance, it transformed my entire life. Since then, I've been gripped with understanding how we can intentionally build character to fuel both personal and professional success. At Virtuosity, we believe character is like a muscle. It needs consistent training. That's why we've built a research-based system that acts as your character gym, making character development practical, scalable, and accessible, even within the largest organizations. On this podcast, we sit down with participants from our flagship Virtuosity program, where individuals commit to a full year of daily character development powered by Virtuosity. Our guests will share why character matters to them, how they're applying it in their personal and professional lives, and the insights they've gained along the way. We hope these conversations challenge, inspire, and equip you with new ways to integrate character into your own journey. Subscribe to stay up to date with our weekly episodes, and if something resonates, share it with your friends and colleagues. Ready to start your own Virtuosity journey? Download the Virtuosity Character app or visit virtuositycharacter.ca to learn more. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Virtuosity podcast. If you're new, I encourage you to check out our launch episode with Mary Crossan for a powerful introduction to this series. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Sonia Zouari as our guest. Sonia is a proud public servant, award-winning architect, passive house designer, retrofit expert, and change management professional with over 25 years of international multi-sector experience. Her career spans real property design and delivery, policy development, leading high-performing teams, and mentoring the next generation of design and public service professionals. Sonia has been a national voice in advancing passive house, the world's leading energy efficiency standard within Canada's affordable housing sector and across the federal government. Her portfolio includes the country's first panelized passive house and LEED Platinum multi-unit residential building, and several initiatives that have advanced sustainability, accessibility, and digital transformation in the built environment. Her work has earned recognition at home and abroad, from the Ontario Association of Architects Women in Architecture feature, to Passive House Canada's Harold Orr Award, to first place in an international design competition for a home for children with cerebral palsy. She donated her winnings to create an iPad-enabled therapy floor for the Ottawa Children's Treatment Centre, reflecting her belief that technical excellence is most meaningful when it lifts others up. After meaningful chapters at Parks Canada and Public Services and Procurement Canada, Sonia joined the Department of National Defence as Chief Architect, where she supports the delivery of mission-ready infrastructure, develops defense-specific architectural policy, and fosters environments where people can contribute their best. Sonia's leadership is also shaped profoundly by motherhood. As the parent of 3 girls, including a complex care child, she practices patience, humility, and compassion every day, strengthening her ability to lead with presence rather than pressure. Grounded in gratitude and purpose, Sonia is committed to character-based leadership, seeing character as the golden thread that transforms technical skill into lasting impact. Well, Sonia, it's so great to have you on. And the first question I always start with is, why does character matter to you?
Thank you so much, Corey, for having me. I'm looking forward to the discussion. And what a great question to start with. Character matters a lot to me because it's the essence of who we are. It's not about the title on the business cards or the technical skills we've picked along the way, as important as those are. And in our world where AI can take on more and more of all the task-based work, character is that one thing that it can't replicate. It's really how we listen, how we respond, how we collaborate, how we earn trust. It's how people experience us as leaders. And my own journey into character was kind of accidental. I stumbled into it through my Ivy leadership training and the Government of Canada Mosaic Leadership Development Program. And it happened right at this app Virtuosity was launching. I felt genuinely energized. Finally, a real structure, a shared language. Emotional intelligence, which has always felt vague and abstract to me, became practical, became something I could see, I could name, and actually I could work on. I had spent decades sharpening my technical toolkit, and stepping into change leadership made it impossible to ignore that character was that golden thread tying all of it together. Without character, technical skill can be brittle, reactive, ego-driven, focused on individual output, not collective impact, and it cracks under pressure. But when your skills are grounded in humility, integrity, sound judgment, they become service. They become relational, not just transactional. And in my field, the architectural engineering construction industry, that's everything. Our work is inherently interdisciplinary. Good solutions only come when people feel safe to challenge each other, when credit is shared, when listening is genuine. That's character at work in a complex system. And that complexity in my field isn't just a human. The industry itself is shifting. Modern methods of construction, robotics, digital twins, smart and connected buildings, AI-driven design, and a relentless push for sustainability and resilience. These changes are rewriting how we design, how we build, and how we operate buildings. And here's the truth. Technical expertise alone won't get us through that. It takes character to make collaboration work across disciplines, cultures, and timelines. On a personal level, to trust others, I need consistency, predictability, and transparency. So strengthening my own character is how I build that same foundation for others to trust me. And honestly, parenting teenagers, especially with different abilities and no user manual, has been my real character gym. The more intentional I've become with my character, the stronger our relationship is getting. And that feedback loop is priceless. And in the public service, in general, character matters even more. We're navigating cuts, rapid change, massive expectations around innovation and transformation, all inside a system that can be pretty risk averse. Technical skill alone can't carry that load. We live in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and our brains, they just default to fear. And when fear is loud, it's character that quiets the room. So leaders with strong character create those conditions where people can take small, smart risks, collaborate, and actually innovate. And that's exactly what this moment is demanding from us. So for me, character is not soft skill. It's that stabilizing system, a habit of being under pressure. It's what turns uncertainty into clarity and fear into trust for our teams, our cultures, and our institution. So strengthening my character, I see that as a responsibility, not because I question it, but because like anything worthwhile, it only grows with deliberate effort. Under pressure, even strong character can slip if you're not nurturing it. Character isn't fixed, it's cultivated. And my commitment is simple: to lead with focus, accountability, and humility, and keep strengthening the virtues that matter most right now: transcendence, temperance, and judgment. The Virtuosity program makes that growth tangible. It offers the structure, the micro practices, and the daily discipline that actually change behavior.
Wow, I think that's one of the most comprehensive responses we've had on the podcast so far. And, every single time we connect, you really do talk about living character and how much you have to double down on it. And I'm really curious about, we were just talking before the podcast, so we started recording about some of the ways that you have been doubling down on character. What are some of those things in your life that are really requiring your character, and what's the impact of that? Perhaps you could share some examples.
Sure, everything in my life is calling for activating my character. And I think for me, it comes down to really paying attention to how I show up in every small moment, everyday moments. So it's nothing like the big heroic stuff, just those quiet choices, my tone, my presence, my intention. And that shift really sharpened for me when I stepped into the chief architect role at G&G. Was for me a natural moment to reset and ask myself, okay, so how do I want to be as a leader now? And being in Virtuosity alongside my Canadian Armed Forces colleagues raised the bar even higher. So their discipline around character is incredible and very inspiring. And when I joined D&D, I stepped into a team already making a difference, already delivering fit for purpose defense infrastructure from coast to coast to coast, shaping policies, and ensuring every project reflects excellence, responsible use of public funds, and a commitment to operational, environmental, social sustainability, accessibility, long-term value, all of that. And early on, it hit me. If I wanted people to bring their best version of themselves to work, I had to start by bringing the best version of myself to work. And that's where self-care and character became my anchor. Integrity shifted from a concept to a daily practice for me. I would explain the why behind my decisions, be transparent about constraints, and I would admit when I don't know something instead of trying to always force certainty. I also realized that integrity isn't always personal honesty. It's alignment between my values, my words, my action, and the organization's mandate. And that distinction really matters. Personal integrity says be true to yourself. Leadership integrity says be true to the mission, even when it's hard. And balancing both, that's where it's real discipline. And that's also when the Government of Canada key leadership competencies and Virtuosity finally clicked together for me. Very complementary. The key leadership competencies tells us what leaders must do, uphold integrity and respect, and Virtuosity shows us how to do it. So all of a sudden, integrity became actionable. Naming my values, checking my motives, and that's really activating humility to strengthen integrity. Pausing before reacting, and that's activating temperance to support integrity. I started unlearning the habit of stepping in too fast, solving too quickly, or letting drive overrun my temperance. So there was an effort to unlearn and to learn new habits. Collaboration became less about meetings and more about inviting quieter voices, widening the circle, reminding myself that no single discipline holds the full picture. Accountability became more purposeful too. It got clearer earlier. I named my expectations instead of leaving people to guess them. And transcendence showed up in how I frame our work. In team meetings, I bring us back to purpose, the scale of investment we're stewarding, its long-term impact. And when we all connect to why it matters, the tone shifts. It's not about individual preference. It becomes collective contribution, serving a mission. And then there are all the micro practices. For example, honoring commitment or being proactive and renegotiate them early. And that's not just about reliability. It's really creating some kind of steadiness in a system that's under pressure. And one of the most meaningful shifts for me has been naming virtues in real time. When I see courage, humility, collaboration, I call it out. It sounds so simple, but it changes the climate. People feel valued, not just for what they deliver, but for how they show up. And the more I notice it in others, the more accountable I feel to live it myself. So Virtuosity made all of this for me visible, nameable, something I can practice in the small moments. It's still early work for me, but it's very deliberate. And that deliberateness is creating the safe space where my team is trying to innovate and grow in a system that is often dominated by fear and inertia. That's the reality of the public service. And these behaviors aren't magically fixing everything, but they make me more intentional. And I feel conversations are opening up and trust is forming slowly. And the first thing I learned when I joined D&D is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So I am feeling more grounded, not flawless, just purposeful, but I think I feel the difference. And honestly, the deepest character work is at home. That's where the gap between my intention and my behavior shows up very obviously. And this year, something shifted. I started naming my missteps out loud. So a simple message to my daughter saying, "I'm sorry, I acted agitated yesterday. My reaction was disproportionate," just rebuilds stress so much faster than perfection could ever do. And that small dose of humility with using the proper language, it changes everything. Our conversations are deeper. And when I activate temperance and try to slow down enough to listen what's underneath my daughter's words, I become more grounded. And here's where Virtuosity really opened my eyes. I realized that justice isn't just institutional. It shows up in those micro moments at home. Was my reaction fair? Was it proportionate? Was it even-handed? Did I treat my daughter appropriately even when I was tired and stressed? That awareness changed not only how I parent, but how I repair. And then there is my mom. And that's the emotional space where character feels both the hardest and the most profound responsibility. My mom lives alone, oceans away. She is aging and her health is declining. And I've been trying to practice compassion through presence. When we talk, I slow down. I listen between the lines. I ask what feels right for you instead of assuming or trying to decide what she needs. But there's another layer to this. My mother is part of the first Bourguiba generation, the Tunisian woman whose rights, education, and autonomy advanced decades before Canadian women gained similar rights. After independence in 1956, Tunisia's first president, Bourguiba, invested 20% of the national budget in education. He treated girls' and boys' education equally and as essential national infrastructure. By the early 1960s, Tunisian women had access to contraception. By 1973, they had access to legal abortion and full civil rights, well before many Western countries, including Canada. Bourguiba wasn't perfect, But on women's rights and education, he led with extraordinary character, courage to defy tradition and religious pressure. This is a Muslim country. Judgment to invest in education before highways, and foresight to recognize that gender equality was not social policy. It was the engine of nation building. That single leadership choice changed the trajectory of a country, and it shaped my mother. My mother carries that legacy in her bones. She is strength and intellect, leadership and motherhood, a woman shaped by a moment in history when character was expressed through bold, principled, nation-transforming decisions. And standing beside her now as she ages feels like honoring everything she stood for and everything that makes me who I am today. And the impact is simple but powerful. She feels loved, heard, respected, not managed. And for me, being present with her, truly present, grounds me. It reminds me that real care isn't about fixing. It's about being considerate, patient, compassionate. And these are character virtues in their purest form. Today, even with all the distance, we're closer than we've been in years. And when I step back and look at all of this, work, team, parenting, family, none of it is rocket science. These are behaviors we all know. The difference now is the intentionality. The character wheel has become my compass. It helps me pause, notice, think, and choose, especially when things are moving fast. And I'm not trying to master everything at once. I'm just trying to stay aware, stay honest, and keep growing. And Virtuosity gives me enough structure to practice that every day, quietly, consistently, and with purpose.
Wow, so many rich examples. Wow, wow, wow. I don't even know where to start, but talking about the example with your mother, talk about in the character development framework that we use, the 7 strategies, we talk about exemplars, and it seems like she's really been an exemplar to you. And you've almost, in an interesting way, used that to actually activate your humanity for her in such a beautiful way. It was really, really beautiful how you just shared all of that really deep, rich humanity. It's just absolutely amazing. And the other parts that were sticking out to me too were, using the language of character with others, admitting your kind of shortcomings that you're sharing. And I think that's such a powerful piece too. It's something that we've also added into the Virtuosity like stage 1 exercises, where it's not just about noticing virtues and vices in ourselves and others, but then taking it a step further and having a conversation about it. And I think that's been so interesting, like talking about the virtues that you notice in somebody else and having that conversation, like how did you develop resilience in your life, is a really interesting conversation to have. But then also sharing, when you have your shortcomings, like you've suggested, and how powerful that can be and how much of a connector it can be. So such a simple practice, but such a powerful one. So you had leadership kind of sprinkled all throughout there, but you do a lot of work in the area of leadership development. And again, you were starting to get at the connections between character and leadership. Do you want to expand on that a little bit more for us?
Sure. Well, the public service today, we're being asked to deliver more with less. We're being asked to rethink old rules and to move at a pace we aren't designed for. So that's not just technical. It's a character challenge. We need courage to question the legacy rules that don't serve us anymore. We need temperance to stay calm because everything is ambiguous. We need accountability to own the outcome, especially that the path is nothing, if anything, but linear. And we need judgment to know when to push, when to pause, and when to just listen. And transformation stalls when character is weak, and we are in a transformation mode. And when transformation stalls, well, Canadian pay the price, and that's the real cost. So character becomes very important. It shapes how we lead when things are complex, like in this context now, where the stakes are high and where the answers just aren't clear. And I try to reflect really competence. It tells you what the person can do, but character tells you what they will do. And that difference, it's everything when the stakes are high. In my world, buildings, infrastructure, the hardest problems are rarely technical. They are human. Conflicting incentives, siloed cultures, tight timelines, limited resources, and a level of scrutiny that can make people really risk averse. In that environment, character becomes a differentiator. We make real property decisions that will ripple across decades. Almost every decision we make will outlive us. We're talking about stewardship of public funds, advancing sustainability, accessibility, inclusion, community well-being. And so many of these decisions, they don't have perfect answers. We're navigating ambiguity daily. In my unit, every project we sign off on is a promise that we've balanced operational needs with sustainability, resilience, accessibility, fiscal responsibility, and so on. Those decisions are technical, 100%, but they're also moral. They require courage to speak up about risks. They require humility to bring others into the decision-making. They require accountability to own the outcome, and collaboration to integrate disciplines that don't naturally speak the same language. Character is what turns integrated design from a checklist to a mindset. It creates that kind of environment where people feel safe to challenge assumptions, offer different perspective, and innovate, especially in this architecture, engineering, construction sector that is still bound by ancient methods of construction. Yet we're being asked to reimagine itself for a future that is regenerative, intelligent, inclusive, and people-centered. We can teach process. We can teach building information modelings, building codes, everything. But none of it matters if the technical expert crumbles under pressure, if they can't regulate their emotion, if their ego hijacks the room. Character is what aligns competence, power, and responsibility with the common good. And in a sector shaping communities for generations, I think character is foundation.
Wow. There was a line that you said, and I've just lost it in my head, but I absolutely loved it. It was around something around how technical, it's usually not failures in technical piece. It was something around the character, but you said it in such a lovely way. So we're going to have to go back and listen to it again. But it is so true. We definitely cover off the competence development, the technical development. Oh, it was that the challenges or issues we have are human problems. That's what you said, I think. And I think it's so true. And the examples you outlined are, they can resonate with so many of us. And so why is it taking us so long to prioritize the development of our character equally alongside those competencies? But I know that there is a lot that you are doing around embedding character explicitly to support leadership development. So could you share some of those initiatives and perhaps some of the challenges and associated opportunities that you're experiencing?
Sure. So with Virtuosity, character isn't very abstract anymore. So I'm trying to weave it into how I think, how I work, how I act, how I decide, how I reflect. And I lean on the leader character framework a lot. So I keep it on my desktop. It's like a grounding counterweight to my natural drive and my excess of caffeine. And when decisions pile up, I take the time to pause and stress test my choices. I ask myself, am I activating a humanity collaboration, humanity to balance my drive? Am I showing accountability, not just for results, but also for people? Am I coaching and creating the growth opportunities while still delivering on commitments? Like that accountability piece is a big one. Because here's the thing, when accountability is focused on results, it drifts into micromanagement over control. But when you balance accountability with humility, humanity, and collaboration, that's when trust actually forms. And that's when people plus performance both thrive. And character really helps me navigate those natural leadership tensions, like caring for others while caring for myself, extending grace while holding expectation. And that's humanity and accountability in action, basically. Staying optimistic without losing realism. And that's where transcendence meets prudence. These aren't easy balances. And honestly, finding the sweet spot, it's never a straightforward answer. It shifts. It shifts with context, with people, with timing. But that's the point. These tensions are what makes leadership deeply human. And building those habits, building those character help us get there. So using the lens of character really helps me stay grounded. It minimizes my blind spots. It reduces my fear. And most importantly, it helps me feel at peace with my decision. I like the guardrail of having a framework to follow, especially for something that was so abstract. And my biggest gain is a structured way to reflect. The Virtuosity app makes it so practical. So I habit stack my morning app check-in with my first coffee, and at night I take a quiet couple minutes to reflect. And the app gives me this simple evening prompt. Are your actions aligned with your goals? And honestly, that question stuck with me. So now, every morning, I've built this little new habit. I glance at my to-do list and pick my top 3 priorities. It's quick, but it sets the tone for my day. I also take a minute to review my calendar and ask myself, how do I want to show up for each of these meetings today? And that tiny step is a game changer. Because when I do that, I stop drowning in transactional tasks and I start owning my presence, my energy, my impact. That's focus. That's how we honor time, our only non-renewable resource. And I try to model this openly with my team. They see how I activate transcendence, how I drive accountability, how I collaborate and invite quieter voices. I narrate my thinking out loud. I share the risks I'm weighing, where I might be biased, where I need help. I show them the character mechanics type of thing behind decisions and try to create the environment for them to do the same. Now, the challenges, where in technical fields like architecture engineering, character can sound soft. We rely on drawings, codes, schedule, hard data, precision. So convincing people that character is about the choices you make that accelerate performance, not an innate personality trait, it takes time. But I'm very encouraged because character-based leadership is now a priority for the Canadian Armed Forces. And even recently, our Prime Minister was introduced by his daughter through the lens of his character, which signals a cultural shift at the highest level. So maybe the real focus should be on progress, not the obstacles. If the military can lead on character, technical fields can too. And the real opportunity is to make character a habit of being, not a course, not an initiative, but a shared practice that shapes how we treat each other, how we solve problems, and how we steward public trust.
Mm. You know, I love when you specified your habit stacking, that you have it stack with your first coffee of the day. I also have 2 coffees each day, so I don't know how many you have, but that resonated. Too funny. But yeah, that habit stacking, it's such a powerful piece when you are trying to create that new habit. And I'm so glad that that's stuck with you. And, you know, talking about the virtuosity piece, we're all the way at December now, which is just wild how quickly time has flown. And you started the program in January. Now having gone through the program for almost 12 months now, committing to that daily practice, what are some of the specific opportunities you see in leveraging virtuosity in that leadership development piece? I mean, you've talked a lot about examples already. Are there any other opportunities you see there?
So when I started Virtuosity, it really felt like stepping into a space of curiosity and discovery. Because for the first time in my leadership journey, I had the opportunity to participate in a structured, practical way to turn character into daily practices. And actually, that metaphor of the character gym and building your character muscle resonated immediately. Years ago, when I shifted from subject matter expert to manager, physical exercise became my anchor. So now, as an aspiring executive, Virtuosity gives me the tools to take that same kind of discipline to the next level. And it's this amazing opportunity to align who I am, who I want to be, and who my organization needs me to be. So we really see character as the key there. And what Virtuosity really gives me is a rhythm for reflection, short, intentional, check in with myself that help me notice patterns. And without Virtuosity, I would have missed all of that awareness and discovery piece. Now I am able to catch myself when my drive starts outrunning my temperance. Sometimes it's a little bit delayed, but it's coming. And I catch myself when my thinking brain goes on overdrive. And I know I realize when I need to activate a bit of humility and just really listen. And these micro adjustments, day after day, they're becoming habits, especially at home. I really see the benefit. But in the leadership context, it's really those habits that change the way we lead. And one of the biggest gifts that Virtuosity gave me is the shared language. And it's not just for work, it's for life. It allows me to describe behavior without judgment. I can now easily say, oh, my drive was high, but my listening was low. And that shifts the conversation. It creates psychological safety because we're naming what's happening, not who someone is. And that removes the defensiveness and brings accuracy. And like on a positive note, I still remember the first time I named a virtue with one of my direct reports, and I saw just his face beaming, and it just, wow, it was that moment. And since it's like I am on a detective mode because I know what it can bring to name those virtues and others. Um, and this work with on the Virtuosity program spilled so beautifully into my home life. So we occasionally have family movie nights where we reflect on leadership moments we saw on screen. Courage, empathy, bad decisions, good intention. It's fun, it's engaging. And somehow it became an unexpected bonding ritual with my teenager. Let me tell you, that's a gift. And another opportunity, and we talked about this earlier, is reflection. So virtuosity doesn't just help me look back on what I did, it helps me understand how I did it, helps me see that my blind spots, especially when sometimes fear narrows my perspective and when my strengths dip into excess. So I'm very proactive and intentional in trying to calibrate drive and humility, collaboration, accountability, judgment with temperance. And another gift is the community. So very early on, I partnered with a colleague in the program. And every morning we would carve out 10 minutes to connect. We reflect on the day before and set our intentions for the day ahead using the character wheel. It was honest, supportive, and so practical. And actually, that partnership opened doors for me, including participating to some meetings with the Government of Canada Character-Based Leadership Community of Practice. And that's what really led me to learn about and discover the incredible work CRA or the Canadian Armed Forces are doing in that space. And that was one thing that drew me to join GND. I wanted to be part of a culture that generally values character development. And but overall, like the greatest opportunity I see with virtuosity is alignment between who we are, who we aspire to be, and what our organization needs us to be. And it helps me make that real with repetition, reflection, shared language, reminders, the exemplars, and the community. It's really how I try to rehearse in the small moments, and I hope I will be ready for the big ones.
Wow. Yeah, the last just picking up on the last piece around the community, I think that is the part that people love most about the Virtuosity program itself is the people that you connect with and the partnership. I didn't realize that you'd meet every single morning. That is impressive commitment. But just a 10-minute check-in, I think, is such a powerful idea. So good for you for starting that. And it does go such a long way, that intentional piece. So yeah, and we've talked before, I think on previous episodes, just it's really hard to do a new habit, stick to something by yourself. So when you have that partner piece or that community piece where you're coming back to that anchor point every month, it's seems to be a really good structure if if you're thinking about engaging in this yourself. So just looking at the time, as we start to wind down here, the question that I always ask our guests at the end of our time is around the character quotient. And so if there's listeners listening that don't know what the character quotient is, it's essentially a set of 10 questions that Mary and I put together that has you thinking about the degree to which you're kind of bringing character into your sphere. So we have 4 questions around your character awareness, 4 questions around character development, and 2 questions around the degree to which you're applying character in your professional life. So did you get a chance to do your questions? And if you did, do you want to share a little bit about how that went for you, perhaps some areas that you're really proud of and perhaps an area that you want to work on?
Sure, I did take some tests, and my character quotient came out at 77. And honestly, that feels right. Like this whole year, it's been stage 1 year for me. Discovery, paying attention, learning the language, describing the patterns. So this stage wasn't really about fixing, more about awareness. And actually, that awareness is what's preventing my blind spots that from becoming derailers. Um, I've really spent this year gaining familiarity with all the 62 virtues on the 11 dimensions of character, reading about the behaviors, trying to watch myself in real time, at work, at home, in stressful moments, in quieter moments, and just noticing, not fixing, but seeing, decoding, trying to understand myself and how I am making decisions. But now, from my assessment, few strengths really stood out, and they felt true the moment I saw them. Accountability. I take ownership. If something goes wrong, I don't look around for someone to blame. I step in. I take commitments seriously. I always act in the best interest of the organization, not just my own preferences. Integrity, transcendence. I naturally connect to purpose. I'm always thinking about the bigger context. I believe in understanding starts at the top. So I'm always focused on who we serve, long-term stewardship, why decisions matters. That gives me a direction. Drive. I bring momentum, energy. I care deeply. I like to deliver. I like to move things forward. Humility. I'm always eager to learn. Listen across disciplines. I never assume I have the full picture. So these strengths really serve me well. And where I need to grow is keeping these strengths in balance, because stage one taught me that my biggest risk isn't a lack of strength, it's when my strengths dip into excess and become derailers. Like accountability. Sometimes I took on too much, and I carry things alone, and even before my own needs. And with drive, I feel the pressure. I feel overly responsible for outcomes. So this year, it's been really learning the mechanics of character, what anchors me, what really throws me off balance, what I need to grow into the person I want to be. And part of that growth and learning old habits, like stepping in too fast, solving too quickly, letting urgency outweigh temperance, and awareness is that first step. And noticing isn't passive, like hoping that's the foundation for growth. And now I'm ready to move from noticing to practicing, discovering to strengthening, because, well, character isn't a destination, it's a lifelong disciplined journey. And I signed up for that.
Wow. Yeah, so many rich examples again that you always provide, and it's really clear how much you've committed to this over the last year. The part that you're saying about like the mechanics of character, that continues to be such one of the most critical elements for me too. Just even noticing that your strengths can become excess vices, it's such an aha moment. And when you start to see the way that those dimensions work together, it feels like, as you said earlier, it's like a compass for you where you can then start to target, okay, what needs to strengthen next. It was so wonderful hearing all of the rich examples you provided. One of the ones that I hadn't picked up on yet, but just talking about how you have a connection with your teenager around noticing the different virtues. And that's a practice that my mom and I also share. Whenever we watch a movie or a video, we're always talking about it through the character lens. So I can definitely resonate with that and so many other examples you provided. So thank you so much for joining it. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we do wrap things up today?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. It seems like I'm making a public commitment here, and public commitments are strong commitments. So my hope is to keep practicing and growing and learning. And I know my accountability partner will be very busy in the next little while. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Such an inspiration just to know how much you are committed to this. And it fuels all the work that we do. And I'm sure all the others that are listening. So thanks again so much for joining us. You have just finished another episode from the Virtuosity podcast. If you have any questions and want to connect, please reach out to me at Corey@virtuositycharacter.ca. I'm also on LinkedIn, so let's connect. As always, thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.